Welcome to SandCity Sports. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King, and we're back again to bring you all the sports and current events, news stories that you need to know. In the studio on my own today, that's okay. It's a very busy time in the summer season, so I have a number of contributors that will be stopping by in the near future. But right now, in tourist town, you got to get it while the getting is good. Okay, a lot of things going on, so folks have to do what they have to do. But nonetheless, your boy's here in the studio, plenty to talk about, and so we're going to get right into it. The NFL wants more football. NFL wants more football, and right now they're trying to work it out in terms of if they can agree upon an 18-game season. This is intriguing to me. For many reasons, a lot of things are intriguing to me. Maybe I consider myself, a junior philosopher, a lot of things. But in my sport, in my game, NBA, they're going the other way for some foolish reason. They're talking about decreasing the amount of games, but the NFL wants to move from a 16 to an 18-game season, and I am very much interested because we're gonna get to the point. If they go from a 16-game to an 18-game season, NFL says it'll earn $2.5 billion more of revenue. NFL generates $16 billion as is. They say 2 more games, okay, add 2.5 more bills, and everything will be good in the land of professional football. Now, the NFL Players Association has initially balked at this idea of an 18-game season. However, the NFL appears to be quite reasonable in their request to start with, in that they're saying even if, so under an 18-game season, we realize that player safety is paramount across all of the professional sports. NFL says we go to 18 games, players are only required to play 16. And we still will divide up that 2.5 bills equitably between the players and the owners. That is an outstanding bargaining chip to me. The NFL immediately has my attention, and really I'm leaning towards giving them my support based on that revision. We have 18 games, but nonetheless, if you're a Tom Brady, if you're a Drew Brees, if you're one of these players that's in their of course those two guys are in their 40s, but if we're one of these players that's hanging on in your mid to late 30s, or NFL is a game that's clearly, game to game and day to day because, of the extreme contact. This new format would not require you to play any more football than you're currently playing. That's all right, as far as I'm concerned. Now, clearly, just because the Cape Cod Kid, who never played a varsity snap in his life, an individual who departed from the gridiron, after his last year of midgets football, last year of Silver Balls football. Interestingly enough, as I move through my 30s and approaching the big 4-0, Cape Cod Kid, hasn't bulked up as he believed that he might. Sometimes, where am I going with this? I can still qualify to play Silver Bullets or youth football, based on the age requirements, and that's, I don't know if that's something to be proud of or something to be ashamed of, but it's just a fact. I happen to be in the featherweight division, going into, like I said, my 40s, but maybe, this episode is the time for me to make that commitment, to bulk up, get lean and mean, so I can get out there in the square circle and battle against some of those middleweights who are at least 10 or 20 years older than me. And all right, back to professional football. NFL Players Association has initially balked at the proposal. Nonetheless, people have made interesting arguments on both sides of the line. First thing that stuck out in terms of, an argument against is that, look, these NFL tickets are not cheap. Here in Titletown, you want to go to a Patriots game, you're forking over some serious dough. If it's just, yourself, maybe $100 plus if you factor in the parking, the food, so on and forth. But, if you're a family person, and it's going to be you, your significant other, 1 or 2 kids, you're talking about close to, approaching $1,000 to go see a ball game. So the outstanding argument that was put forth initially was that, look, if I'm a season ticket holder and I'm paying this type of money, to go to these ball games, and the star player's not in the field, then we have ourselves a problem. Okay, you're a Patriots fan, you go to Foxborough, you need to see Tom Terrific. You need to see the GOAT, allegedly, possibly, here in New England, definitely. He needs to be out there on the field. And what are we going to do with, quote-unquote, load management arriving in the NFL, and how will that impact the viewing experience? Good argument there. Another argument put forth by the players was that, listen, I dreamt about and, earned my way into the NFL in order to play football. That's what I'm here to do. So if there's 18 games on the schedule, then your boy's playing 18 games. Again, this is speaking, from the perspective of certain NFL players. They're saying, listen, we don't want that restriction put upon us. If I'm healthy and have the opportunity to go out there and grind and battle, okay, and compete at the highest level of America's top sport, then I want to be able to do it. I don't want to be restricted in any way in terms of the games that I can play when I'm able to play. Interesting argument. Now, of course, there's going to be players as this story evolves that are going to say, we appreciate and want to work within that 16-game limit within an 18-game construct. So some football pundits have come out immediately and said, listen, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, these major league sports, you're basically a TV show. Okay, I'm borrowing from Mr. Jason Whitlock here. And the point of television shows, the point of entertainment is to generate revenue. That should be your first, foremost, primary concern. And so if there's the opportunity to go out and get more money, and you're a professional athlete, or you're an artist or entertainer, that's what you have to do. No holds bar. Go and get that bread. And the NFL being the most profitable league by far, we're talking about serious money, billions of dollars, okay? 50-50 split. That's $1.25 billion to be divided up amongst the players just to start with. You need to go out and secure the bag. That's the argument being put forth by reputable football analysts to start. On the players' side, and let's, we've discussed some players' perspective. Let's take a look, at, because again, your boy at, $148 soaking wet over here. I done told you how I get down in terms of football. I might, possibly, could step on a flag football field, just to, if there's limited contact, in that arena. But I ain't coming anywhere near close to no contact football and the gridiron, period. but I am a sports fanatic. I follow all the major sports quite closely. Know a little bit about the game of football. I'm not an expert. Where am I going with this? I don't like the idea of us now having to rewrite the record book because of this 18-game season. That concerns me to start with. Now, baseball, for decades, had a 154-game season. As time moved on, sport had to evolve like anything else, moved to a 162-game season, and they're still doing quite well. NFL could transition in the same fashion. This point was highlighted when Roger Maris was chasing Babe Ruth for the single-season home run record. Purists, conservatives, grumpy old men, like your boy is becoming, said Maris has to get this record in 154 games. We will not stand for Babe Ruth's legacy, one of his crowning achievements, being usurped based on an unfair advantage, that being additional games. Look, Maris made it to 61. Took him all 162 games. Is there an asterisk there? Maybe, maybe not. I have to check the record books. But the game of baseball progressed, moved forward triumphantly, and all is well, within that kingdom. I believe the same will be true of the NFL. The record book will have to be revised. It will have to be noted. New players, should they go to this format, have additional games. So in terms of single-season records and all-time records, there's going to be a distinction. Nonetheless, back to baseball to make that parallel. Do people think that Lou Gehrig, I'll say Ty Cobb, okay? Don't agree with many of the man's viewpoints. In terms of his baseball ability, unquestioned. But through the masterful work of Ken Burns and his baseball documentary, I'm able to understand Ty Cobb more as a human being, and that allows me to give him his just due as an all-time great baseball player. What's the point here? The point is the legends of old, Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Hank Aaron, Frank Robinson, others, their achievements have stood the test of time even as the game of baseball has evolved. That second list of greats, I believe they played in a 162-game era for the most part. We have to go back again to Babe Ruth's era and prior, really the pre-World War II era, to look at those ball players who operated under a different construct. Record book made adjustments. We move forward in a right way, in a good way. I think the same thing is going to be true of football. Okay, did our football. Let's move it over, to hoops. Put myself on a little bit more firm, solid footing, and let's get it cracking. The dominoes have fallen. The chips are where they're going to be, and we are in for an outstanding NBA season. We have looked at this in depth in previous episodes, so I'm not going to tell folks what they already good and well know. The storylines that will close out the NBA offseason are, where do the players who are unhappy in their current locale, where are they going to end up? Chris Paul, obviously the highest paid player who wants out. I do not believe he is the most important player looking to bounce. Andre Iguodala, not just because we share a first and pretty cool first name, is the most important buyout player in the NBA. I don't think it's that close. Andre Iguodala, okay, the Golden State Warriors, gonna retire his jersey, great. Won a couple championships, Golden State, great. On his way, I was gonna compare him to Robert Horry. If he makes the right decision, he will end up with close to, if not as many championships as Robert Horry. And that's why his decision is fascinating. We'll forget a line of adjectives. It's going to have playoff and championship significance in my view. Initially, the reports were he was leaning towards the Lakers. The Lakers made some outstanding deals, and they made some more outstanding deals. I believe the Lakers roster is as good, if not better, than every team in the NBA. I think right now, as constituted in terms of players, the Lakers are a step ahead of the Clippers. In terms of the overall organization, Chip City, Clip City, yeah, I think the Clippers have the decided advantage there. Point of fact is, the Lakers have committed so much of their available revenue that it's going to be difficult, even though Iguodala might have been leaning in that direction, for them to acquire him on the buyout market. It would probably require Iguodala to take less in his buyout than he might otherwise feel comfortable doing. By the way, this is the predicament that Chris Paul finds himself in. It's been discussed on this show, been discussed on every show. His $124 million remaining over 3 years, capping out at $44 million in 2021-22 when he is 37. That is the reason Chris Paul might be spending all of next season in Oklahoma City. If he wants the majority of his money, which I'm sure he does, right now it's looking like Oklahoma City is going to be the place where he might have to stay. Have to give a shout out to one Mr. Jalen Rose, Jalen Jacoby. Great show. Those guys do an outstanding job. Jalen pointed out that there are contracts out there, like the Otto Porters of the world, looking at a $100 million contract. Chandler Parsons of the world, $90 million worth of revenue. Nick Batum's of the world, 70, 80, 90 million dollars. There are contracts in that range that teams might want to get rid of in order to acquire a player like Chris Paul. The reporting today is, even though he might prefer Miami, and Miami would be happy to have a player of his resume on their roster, they don't necessarily have the cap flexibility. And looking at players they are ready to move on from, already got rid of Hassan Whiteside. And so right now, that deal has stalled over draft picks. Sam Presti is going to get his draft picks if the deal's going to go down. We know that. Man has 15, 16 draft picks going forward next 3 to 5 years. You're going to take a player or work something out, you're going to have to come up off those draft picks. And so that's why the deal in Miami has stalled and may stall indefinitely, making Chris Paul's leverage not very much. So Iguodala, Lakers may not be on the table necessarily. You don't know, okay? Because Clutch Sports, and we have to touch on some Clutch Sports things in relation to Mr. Marcus Morris, but we're going to get there. But they and Rob Pelinka have shown that they're about that life. They get things done. Magic might not be happy, or might not have been happy with them. Certainly happy in his retirement with his freedoms. Those guys can get the job done. So Iguodala could still end up with the Lakers. The Clippers are the other destination, along with the Rockets, that are receiving the most buzz at present. With the, again, dominoes having fallen, chips in the hands that they're going to remain in for the most part. The Clippers and the Rockets now have the flexibility to bring in Iguodala, and that would change the balance of power in the Western Conference, period. What the Lakers have done with their bench, with their roster overall, you have a Boogie Cousins and you have a JaVale McGee. You have a Rajon Rondo and you have a Quinn Cook. You have a Danny Green and you have a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Jared Dudley, still serviceable, great practice guy. He can relieve LeBron James of some minutes. And they still have that Kardashian-Jenner associate, your boy Kyle Kuzma, who gets buckets. He's still up onto the roster. His star, in terms of on the court and off the court, is definitely rising. And the Lakers, I think they got the best roster in basketball. I just do. The Sixers have maybe a better starting five. All those guys are durable, known to be out there. And I'm talking about Tobias. I'm talking about Al Horford, Ben Simmons. He plays, majority of those 82. Josh Richardson, junkyard dog on the defensive end. As I understand, need to look a little bit, but he's definitely an athlete, and he can shoot the three ball. And of course, Embiid is going to sit games because he should sit games. And the Philadelphia 76ers changed the NBA landscape in terms of how they rested players, and there's nothing wrong with that. And more star players, more big men beyond that need to limit their regular season games to 65 to 75. It's just good for everybody. And because the NBA, night and day different in terms of schedule, NFL, we're looking at 80, excuse me, got a quick text. Homeboy, okay. People reaching out to me. I'll get back to him. We get to that. NBA, clearly 82 games. NFL, it's only 18 games. So again, if you miss LeBron, if LeBron happens to sit out when he heads to Beantown, particularly with this NBA, where there are so many more good teams, you're gonna see a star the next time you happen to head to, whether it be the Garden or wherever you're out. This idea about load management, I don't think it's having a negative impact on the NBA in such a fashion to the point where folks should be talking about limiting the NBA season. Players have a right to rest. They should take rest during the regular season because, again, you're going to win a championship. You're talking about, over 100 games. No reason why you should burn yourself out in January and February when the real money's on the line in May and June. Pop did this for years with the San Antonio Spurs, and how did that work out for them? I'm not aware of any protests, any riots. Folks taking to the streets, letting their voice be heard. San Antonio, because of their frustration with how they do business. I think the same is true across the board in the NBA. Load management is not an issue. Back to the 76ers and them having the best starting five, you know, if and when Embiid has to sit, no problem. But top to bottom, 1 through 12, Lakers have the best roster. That's how I feel about it. And, you know, if Iguodala goes to the Clippers, maybe I'll reconsider. But keeping that in, I was gonna say Tinseltown, but they're all in Tinseltown. Same message, you know, recurrent. All right, folks, I've got about, you know, just over 5. We're moving and grooving, and there's some things that we're gonna talk on. Concluding with the NBA. Adam Silver is the best commissioner in pro sports. His innovations with the NBA All-Star Game, changing the format there. His innovations with the NBA schedule, allowing for more rest over the course of the season, not just a week off after the All-Star Game, but less back-to-backs. The leadership that was showed by David Stern that Adam Silver has continued in terms of taking the mantle, with the NBA being aggressive and pioneering in the digital space, deserves credit there. How the NBA markets its players, utilizing social media to build both the player's brand and the brand of the NBA. Wonderful, outstanding. List all the other adjectives you want. Talking about lessening the NBA season does not fall amongst these innovations and is offensive. Outlawing the word owner from the NBA lexicon is offensive. These are not good innovations. We don't need them. Period, end of story, exclamation point. Forget the question marks. That's just it. Okay, owner. Folks out there, you know, you're doing well for yourself, working hard, making money, saving money, investing money. You buy a car. Are you the governor of that car? Because you might be driving around with somebody who's a different ethnicity than you, and possibly because in many or at certain times we can be too politically correct in our society, and because you quote unquote own that car, now they feel offended based on some possible unreasonable correlation to slavery hundreds of years ago. It's absolutely preposterous. There is no connection between if you owned a vehicle, if you owned a piece of property, if you owned an NBA or professional franchise, and that rightful, hopefully profitable business acquisition, looking down on any minority in any way, just based solely on your ownership of that entity. There's no correlation. Adam Silver, the NBA, you tripped yourself up and fell headfirst in the mud there. Now, in terms of an extended, in terms of a shortened NBA season, here's where I think Adam Silver is going with this, and his idea about a mid-season tournament or, you know, mid-season quote-unquote cup. David Stern said some years ago, look, the NBA is looking into and receptive about having franchises outside of North America, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa. However, this will only take place if a division, 4 teams, enter the NBA at once. That's how it will work. The only justification for Adam Silver talking about shortening the season and bringing in these ideas about a tournament or a cup, mid-season, end of season, whatever, is that he is hedging towards the possibility and maybe eventuality of the NBA expanding international. Aside from that, these proposals are ludicrous. And in conclusion, I disagreed firmly with the NBA. Get late in the show, your boy's grammar is suffering. Let me get back up on the saddle and keep it moving. The NBA revising its shot clock on an offensive rebound to 14 seconds. Thought it was unnecessary, unreasonable in terms of the NBA game. Scoring is already going through the roof. Offensive stats are the highest they've ever been. Didn't think we needed this revision. However, this framework or idea was borrowed, hand went out of the screen there, from FIBA. Okay? That's the model that the NBA has imitated. Don't think the NBA needs it. Just like I don't think the NFL needs some of the offensive regulations that they have, with scoring already going through the roof just because of innovations within offensive philosophies. Nonetheless, NFL has those rules in place, and the NBA, in terms of the shot clock, has that rule in place. Disagree with it firmly. However, if Adam Silver, again, is hedging towards internationalizing the NBA, then at the end of the day, it will pay dividends. Moving towards the conclusion of the show, a couple things we need to touch on. There was an all-time great sporting event that took place at Wimbledon. The finals between Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer was an instant classic. The battle between Federer and Nadal in the semis could also be in this conversation, but the finals, without a doubt, without question, was an all-time great match. Djokovic coming out on top. Now, speaking of revisions, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but Roger Federer lost in the Wimbledon finals 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago to Rafael Nadal in a circumstance where in the fifth set in championship round tennis, in championship level tennis, you have to win by two games. Wimbledon recently revised this rule, in my opinion, unnecessarily, to state that after 12 games, if both participants, if both players have amassed 12 wins, then it goes to a tiebreak. In order to, tennis, again, everyone is so concerned about attention spans and millennials and the information age, and things are moving so fast, and we need to be, it's wrong. It's just wrong. Quality is quality. And if a tennis match has to go 5.5 or 6 hours because folks continue, you can't win, like again in basketball. So you got to win by 2. We play straight up to 11, 15, win by 2. Or straight up to 11, you stop at 15, whatever the case may be. Sometimes, win by 2, you end up, going, the final score is like 37 to, 35. And that's great. So, Wimbledon, revising this, I disagree firmly. Nonetheless, Djokovic triumphed, in an outstanding match. In looking at it, we have to recognize that this is a golden era of men's tennis. Women's side, outstanding as well. Halep, over Serena, and the women's game is healthy and doing amazing things also. On the men's side, you have Roger Federer, who has the most Grand Slam titles with 20. You have Rafael Nadal, who's second with 18. You have Novak Djokovic, who's third with 16, I believe. All playing at a very high level, well into their 30s, and with no end in sight. That is outstanding. Let me see. I wanted to touch on concluding topics. It's escaping my memory. So we're going to conclude with Game of Thrones. All right, there's some athleticism going on in terms of, that war, that battle to save Winterfell. And certainly athleticism there, saving the living against what happened with against the White Walkers. And I don't agree with what Daenerys did there in the Battle of King's Landing, but that certainly did require some athleticism. Where's your boy going? They set a record with 32 Emmy nominations. And I believe that series, that final season, was tremendous. So hats off to them. And while I'm discussing Emmys, hats off to Ava DuVernay and When They See Us. 16 Emmy nominations for them, well deserved. If we're looking at a golden age of tennis, we are certainly also looking at a golden age of television, and it certainly makes us be a little bit stricter and more disciplined with our schedules, but it's certainly a good thing. Folks, that's going to do it. Go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe as you feel the need. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. I want to thank you for tuning in to SandCity Sports, and we will see you here back again the next time.
Yes, we piece of souls do sedate ourselves. Just a number of this pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to retake ourselves. So yes, we piece of souls do sedate ourselves. Just a number of this pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to embrace ourselves. Yeah.